My son told me he didn't want a dad anymore, and I could hear in his voice that he believed it. I want to tell you how that sentence came to exist. How a 7-year-old boy who had spent every other weekend at my house for 2 years, who had a drawer in my bedroom full of his things, who had a specific way of falling asleep against my shoulder during films that I could feel in my chest just by thinking about it. How that boy came to sit across a table in a Kafka's meeting room and tell a professional that he did not want to see his father anymore. And I want to tell you about the witness statement. The one that arrived 4 days before the final hearing, from a person neither my solicitor nor his mother's solicitor had anticipated, that said the thing that nobody else had said clearly enough. I will get there. But first I need to tell you what 18 months of parental alienation actually sounds like from the inside, because it does not sound like anything dramatic, it sounds like small things. A phone call that does not happen, a message that arrives slightly wrong, a child who is a little colder than he was last time, then a little colder again, until cold becomes the new warm, and you have spent 6 months convincing yourself it is ordinary. My name is Tom. I am 35 years old. My son's name is Noah. He's 8 years old now, and he has my eyes and his mother's stubbornness, which I have always found more endearing than inconvenient. We separated when Noah was 4. His mother's name is Claire, in the kind of ending that starts as a mutual decision and calcifies over months into something with harder edges. The separation was not violent, it was not dramatic. It was two people who had become the wrong version of themselves together and who made the practical choice to stop. We agreed on contact arrangements without going to court initially. Alternating weekends, one midweek evening, shared school holidays. I thought, because we had agreed without lawyers, that this meant we had managed it well. I was wrong about what the agreement meant. I was wrong about what managing it meant. And I was wrong, most consequentially, about whether Claire's compliance with the arrangement reflected its spirit or merely its letter. The first thing I noticed was tone, not absence, tone. Noah had always been a warm child with me, in the easy way of young children who have not yet learned to modulate how much they show. From approximately month 4 of the separation, something began to shift, not dramatically, in the specific way that a note slightly out of tune becomes audible only when you have heard the right version often enough. He was a little quieter, a little slower to settle in at mine. He mentioned his mum more, but not in the offhand way of a child who is telling you about his week, in the way of someone who is checking whether it is safe to. I noted it. I told myself it was adjustment. I told myself he was 4, then 5, and 5 is an age of enormous internal weather, and not everything visible on the surface is caused by the thing nearest to it. I told myself that for about 6 months. In month 8, Claire began cancelling the midweek evening, not consistently, 3 times in 5 weeks, each time with a reason, homework, an activity he had mentioned, a birthday tea for a friend. Each reason was plausible. Each reason was the kind of thing I could not refute without seeming unreasonable, which I later understood was not accidental. I raised it by text. Claire responded in writing, carefully, in ways that would look reasonable to anyone reading them later. I noted this quality of her responses. I began to understand that what I was watching was not improvised. Now I want to stop and make you uncomfortable for a moment, because I think you need to be. Because if you read this story from the outside and you know nothing about parental alienation, you might be thinking, a man saying his ex is manipulating their child. How many times has that been said? How many times has it been the man saying it? How many times has it turned out to be projection or grievance or the specific self-justifying narrative of someone who cannot accept that a child might genuinely prefer to spend time elsewhere? I know you might be thinking this because it is a reasonable thing to think, and because the system, Kafka's, the family court, the solicitors, thought it too for a while. Sit with that. It matters to what comes next. The Kafka's assessment was ordered when I applied to the family court for enforcement of the contact arrangement. in the month that Noah missed his 4th consecutive midweek visit and declined, on the telephone to come to the weekend contact with a reason I did not recognize from anything in his actual life. The theft officer was a woman named Patricia. She interviewed Noah for 40 minutes in a neutral venue. She spoke to Claire, she spoke to me. She submitted her initial report in 6 weeks. The report was measured and careful, and it did not find what I needed it to find. It noted Noah's stated reluctance to spend time with me. It noted his expressed anxiety about contact. It recommended that contact continue but at reduced frequency while therapeutic work was undertaken. And it suggested family therapy as a route toward rebuilding the relationship. It did not use the word alienation. It used the phrase relationship difficulties that require sensitive management. The hearing that followed the CAFCAS report adjusted the contact arrangement. Fortnightly weekends, no midweek evening for the time being. Therapeutic assessment to begin within 60 days. I accepted this because my solicitor, a woman named Helen, who had been in family law for 18 years and who had the specific quality of saying the hardest things in the flattest possible voice, advised me that contesting it at this stage would not help. She said, "We build the record, we document. We attend every contact, we report every difficulty, we wait." I waited. 7 months, 14 contact sessions, 4 of which Noah attended reluctantly, 2 of which he left early, 3 of which he refused to engage during, 1 of which he asked, in a voice I have been trying to unhear ever since, whether I had really stopped loving him like his mom said. I want to tell you about that sentence, whether I had really stopped loving him like his mom said, because it is the sentence that sits at the center of everything, not as evidence. Evidence is what the lawyers work with, as a fact about what had been done to a 7-year-old boy in the time between seeing me and seeing me again. Something had been said to him that reorganized his understanding of me. I do not know exactly when it was said or exactly how. I know that it was said because the only route by which that sentence enters a 7-year-old's mouth is through an adult who put it there. Helen filed for a fact-finding hearing. She argued that the pattern, the cancelled contact, the changed tone, the specific language Noah was using about me constituted a case for the court to determine whether parental alienation was occurring. The application was granted. The midpoint of this story is the months before the fact-finding hearing, which is where everything became significantly worse. Claire's solicitor submitted a position statement that included 3 pieces of evidence. First, a record of a call I had made to Claire in month 9, during which I had raised my voice. The recording was not complete. The context that I was responding to being told Noah was not available for a 4th consecutive time was not included. Second, a statement from a family friend of Claire's, characterizing my contact requests as pressurizing and my communication style as aggressive. Third, a new CAFCAS addendum produced following a further interview with Noah, in which he had made more specific statements about his reluctance to see me and had, for the first time, used the word scared. Scared. My son, who had slept against my shoulder, who had the drawer of his things in my bedroom, who had never been frightened of me in his life, had told a CAFCAS officer that he was scared. Helen read the addendum with the stillness of someone who is recalibrating, and then she said, "We need to find an independent witness, someone who has observed Noah in both households, someone with professional credibility and no prior relationship to either party." She said, "Think. Who has seen him regularly outside the family over the past 18 months? I thought. His teacher. Her name is Joanne. She's been Noah's class teacher for 2 years. She had, in that time, seen him every school day, in the specific way that teachers see children, not as they present themselves to parents, but as they are when they think nobody important is watching. Helen contacted Joanne's head teacher to request a witness statement. Joanne was advised of her professional obligations and agreed to provide one. The statement arrived 4 days before the fact-finding hearing. It was 7 pages long. Joanne's statement described, in precise chronological order, her observations of Noah over 22 months. It documented the change in his presentation that had begun in approximately month 6 of the separation, a shift from a settled, engaged child to one who appeared increasingly anxious about saying the wrong thing in school, who had told Joanne on 2 separate occasions that he was worried about upsetting his mom, who had asked her once in a direct question that Joanne had noted and dated at the time, whether it was true that dads could stop caring about their children if they were not around enough. Whether it was true that dads could stop caring. Joanne's statement also documents something she observed in month 15, a conversation between Noah and another child in the class overheard during a free period in which Noah had said that his dad didn't really want to see him. It was just what he had to do because of the law. Joanne had noted this and had spoken to the school's designated safeguarding lead, who had recorded it in the school's welfare file. The welfare file entry was attached to the statement. His dad didn't really want to see him. The law made him. The fact-finding hearing was before a circuit judge named Martin in the family court in Leeds. The courtroom was small and warm in the specific way of rooms where too many people have spent too many difficult hours. I sat at a table and smelled the particular combination of carpet and radiator heat that would, from that point forward, smell to me of the day I waited to find out whether a judge would see what I saw. Helen placed Joanne's statement before Martin. Claire's barrister challenged its admissibility on the grounds that it constituted hearsay and opinion outside the witness's professional expertise. Martin read the statement in its entirety. He noted the welfare file entry. He said that the documented observations of a class teacher with direct daily contact over 22 months were relevant to the welfare question before the court and that the statement would be admitted. He then asked Claire's barrister to respond to the specific language Noah had used in the overheard conversation. Claire's barrister said that children often process adult situations imperfectly and that the language reflected Noah's own confusion rather than any adult influence. Martin said the question is where the confusion originated. The finding was made the following week in a written judgment. Martin found on the balance of probabilities that Noah's expressed reluctance to spend time with me had been materially influenced by Claire's communications with him about our relationship, and that this influence had reached the threshold for parental alienation as defined in the court's existing framework. He ordered the reinstatement of full contact, an immediate referral to a specialist alienation therapist for Noah, and a review hearing in 3 months with specific targets for contact compliance. Full justice served. That is what the variables at the top of this story promised you. Here is what full justice served felt like in practice. Noah came for the first reinstated contact weekend 4 weeks after the judgment. He arrived at the door with his bag and his coat and the specific careful expression of a child who has been told something is happening that he has been told to feel a particular way about. I crouched down and said, "Hi, bud." He said hi. He did not move for a moment, and then he came in, and I closed the door and we went into the living room, and I did not know what to say, and he did not know what to say, and we sat there for a while in the specific silence of two people who love each other and have been separated from each other long enough that the love and the strangeness are present simultaneously. I asked if he wanted to watch something. He said, "Yeah." I put something on. He sat at the other end of the sofa. By the end of the weekend, he was closer. Not all the way, but closer. The drawer in my bedroom, the one with his things in it. He opened it on the Sunday morning, I do not know why, and looked at what was in it, and then looked at me. I said, "I kept it." He said, "Why?" I said, "Because it's yours." He did not say anything else. He closed the drawer, but he left a small car on top of the chest of drawers before he went home. His. He left it there deliberately. I have not moved it. That is the mirror. The drawer kept, the car left. The beginning, perhaps, of the thing that was interrupted. I want to give Claire something before I end because I promised dimension, and she deserves it in the full meaning of that word. She is a person who was frightened. Not of me, I want to be precise about that. Frightened of the shape of her life after the separation, of the degree to which Noah's time with me was time she was not there for, of the way that shared custody requires a kind of trust in someone you have stopped trusting. That fear is real and it is human and it does not excuse what it produced. But the mechanism is fear, not malice. And understanding the mechanism is the only way to understand how it can be fixed rather than simply punished. Here is what I cannot resolve. The therapy is ongoing. Noah is 8 years old and he is being helped carefully to understand that what he was told about me was not true. That process requires undoing something that was done to him at an age when he could not defend himself against it. I watch him each contact weekend reading the distance, which is smaller now, incrementally, measurably smaller, and I think about the 18 months that are behind us and the thing they cost him, not me, but him, and I hold that in a place I do not fully know how to access. What I want to ask you is this. If you were Noah and you were 8 and someone who loved you had told you something untrue about someone else who loved you, and then a judge and a therapist and a teacher's statement had told you it was untrue, how long do you think it would take you to fully believe that? Because I think about that question often, and I am not sure the answer is something a court order can specify. He left the car on the chest of drawers. That is what I have. It is enough to continue on, and it is not enough. And both of those things are permanently true